Hey, my name is Joaquin Melada, and this is the AI Digest. And today we're going to be talking about the risks of AI brutality and how the pursuit of AI is costing us all. Um, where should we begin with this episode? I think we take for granted everything that is around us that is running on AI technologies. For example, our phones, our microwaves, our stoves, the everything that we use on a day-to-day basis that's connected to Wi-Fi or running the infrastructure that even powers our cities has some form of AI. Um, so to give us a little bit more on this, we're going to be interviewing Peter Palaschini. He's the host of the Ask Palaschini podcast, and he's been on this show quite frequently. He's been on previous events and a previous podcast to talk about the risks of adopting AI and what should be taken into consideration when you want to pursue the adoption of these technologies. Maybe Peter, you can give us a little background on who you are, what you do, and some of the background that you've shared before on AI risks.
Okay, thank you for the invitation. I really like your show, and it's always insightful, full of interesting guests and different views or not mainstream views. And I believe that is a good thing. And I gonna try to stay out of the mainstream as well today. So my first experience with AI was in the late 80s when I started programming at that time machine learning algorithm. Um, it was a prototype, so it was not something that was in production that would help companies, but it was a prototype for a school project, and it helped machine learning how to do things. At that time, the plotters. So I don't know if plotters are still the thing, uh, but these were devices. If you needed a plan for your house, there would be not a printer, but a plotter would be a special device that would take a pen of a different color and would then write a specific plan for the houses. And we used the same technology for scanning. Scanners are now extremely developed. At that time, they were not. And when we were scanning things, our idea was that the program was able to distinguish between what are the letters, what are the lines, what are the pictures, and if there are calculations, so that we could digitalize this info at that time. And then if these were pictures, we would need to understand the size of the picture, and then we would scan the picture and put it in a database. And if there was a text, we would assume that it's a part of the document, and then we would put it at that time it was called a text file. We would put it in a text file, and then you would have calculations in one file, texts in other files, and all the pictures in the third file. That was rudimental at that time. Every phone has more capabilities these days. But for us, it was a huge project. We worked a couple of months on that. And fast forward to today, I'm working with many different companies in AI space, helping them understand the risks of AI, especially of implementing wrong data sets, of sharing, because a lot of LLMs are now public, of sharing companies' data on let's say, public LLMs, losing their edge or competitive advantage through that. And then the reality of automatization, optimization, and outsourcing things to AI. Of course, maintaining all the so the risk control according to the ICO 41,000 risk management standards. And I also work a lot with people, and I believe that is that there are a lot of synergies because I'm an expert in midlife crisis, and I believe that um, AI is going through a midlife crisis that will result in a third AI winter in 2026.
Excellent. Those are big. That's a big claim, and I'm sure you've been seeing and tracking the patterns. We talked about this before we started recording. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the initial AI winters and how you believe the patterns are emerging to show the third one is coming in.
Okay. Um, because I'm a bit of a nerd, or I will nerd a bit out. Please give me a minute for that. So, in the 60s, AI came from fiction novels to a mainstream science, and there were so the technology seemed promising, and the initial tests and initial AI programs were extremely promising. But then there were hardware limitations to computing that was needed uh, to to support this machine learning. So in the 70s and until early 80s, AI was AI dropped into first AI winter because the conclusion from the people that invested in the research of AI and development would claim that the processing power is not there. Then moving from mainframe computing into the personal computing, in the 80s, AI got a new spin on life, and the processing power increased, and we had 64 bit processors and stuff like that. We went from 8 to 64. The TAC, or the processing speed, was much increased. So we believe that the sky is the limit, and the R&D funding in the mid 80s until almost mid 90s was huge, and part of that is also character recognition for our scanners and stuff like that that we are still using today. However, the scientific society said that this is no longer AI because it's too trivial. Everyone can do now character recognition. So this is not a discipline in AI anymore, but it was hugely developed after the second or after the first AI winter. And then we went into mid 90s. There were still or the new problems that people or the scientists would like to solve with AI were still not solvable due to the lack of processing power. So in the mid 90s, we dropped into the second AI winter that lasted until probably 2012, 2015, where we saw a huge development of LLMs, or neural networks. And I do believe that right now, because of the special requirements, so much energy that is required, so many power plants that needs to be built, so many data centers that needs to be built anew to run existing LLMs, we're gonna see the third AI winter in 2026, and I believe that is exclusive. And if I'm wrong, please send me email or contact me if by the end of the 2026 we don't get into the next AI winter.
No, I think you bring up a good point, and I've heard similar things from other people as well. I mean, the pattern that you're illustrating in those three examples is constraint of physics and constraints of money. You know, the technology is not there for hardware and computing power in the 60s, 70s. You're gonna have to hold off until every year, computers get smaller and more powerful, and then the 90s you hit it again, you know?
I agree. That is important part. But every time that we dropped into the AI winter, the algorithms have improved because the stubborn scientists believe that they want to do it on the existing hardware, but with new algorithms. So algorithms got improved during the winter. It's not good for business, but it was good for the science.
So that's when they do the hard science. That's when they do the real work. Okay. Yeah, I think we wanted to talk about in this particular episode what is AI brutality? Why are we claiming that things are being done in why are things being done backwards? Right? Because like
Mhm.
you said, algorithms have improved during the winter. So what does that mean during the summer? That we're having fun and filled with illusions and hype and hope and moving towards things that don't exist?
I do believe that what we so during the AI summer, we all believe that more is better. And during the summer times, we believe that power is more important than wisdom. And we just say, okay, we want X amount of processes, then we need this amount of servers, or now we go down to the chips, we need this amount of chipsets, and we need so much water, and we need so much energy to do it. And nobody cares if this is viable or not, because everyone is explaining endless growth. For example, last week it was became mainstream that OpenAI with 1.4 billion uh, turnover has 1.4 trillion commitments already signed for investments. So that means that someone is extremely optimistic and it's spending money that will be earned in the future or might not be earned in the future. And that exposes us to a huge risk. Some talk about bubble. I'm not sure that it's going to be a bubble. I am sure that when price earning ratios go above 15, we have to be really careful. Let's put it like that. And nobody is talking about developing of algorithms and improving algorithms beyond versions. We are just talking about deployment. So deploying uh, more computers, more power,
Brutality.
bigger, better.
Brutality. Yeah.
Yeah.
Volume, volume, volume. Not elegance, not simplicity, not efficiency, not fit for use. More, bigger, more.
And where we see that it's similar, like when people are spending money they don't have, we just give them higher credit on their credit cards. It's same here. Instead of teaching people how to prompt and how to limit their data set, we just say, okay, you have to buy a professional version. And we could save so much energy just by teaching or telling people how to prompt, how to limit what the and how to anchor things, so that we don't that there are no permutation of what we already like, for example in the picture, so that the picture only the one like the part of the picture that we don't like would be changed. But now with LLMs, as you know, every time you change the whole picture or you change the whole text, and that is costing us a lot. And data sets, as I said, they're not streamlined. So for example, I work a lot with legal professionals, and instead of legal professionals putting in their previous litigations um, and best cases and best scenarios and stuff like that, uh, uh, or the most difficult cases that there were, they just take LLMs for granted, and then LLMs read on Reddit about litigation that Kim Kardashian had with someone from their staff or something like that, and then it mixes uh, the bias of this article into the serious contract that some attorney wants to, or a paralegal usually wants to do a contract for their client, and it has this bias from article about Kardashian suing someone from Reddit or other newspapers inside, and that takes first that. We know that garbage in, garbage out is still, or there is still a law, or however, it's firm. It's impossible to escape that. And if we're not careful what we put in the data set, we will have huge problem on the output. And that means that we're going to have to hire people to check our output. And we're going to lose maybe even more time than if we would take care of the data set. So uh, the control is really uh, still the things that we must be really careful about, and we need to be sure that we understand the risks that are involved, and as you see, the first companies are already reporting that they cannot do all the programming with AI, because half a year ago everyone was, "Oh, we're gonna fire 10,000 programmers because AI can do all this," and now 4 months later, 6 months later, we, we are sure that AI can help experienced programmers do their job faster. So it's just optimization. It's not outsourcing. We cannot replace programmer with AI. We,
Well,
we
I think if I could just take a step back from what you were saying a little earlier, um, we have interfaces, so computers, phones, and they are tied together to some service provider, say, ChatGPT or whatever, Gemini, Claude, who cares? They have a model that is general purpose and has consumed a large amount of text, of data that has been fed from various sources, whether they stole books from authors and used things that were under copyright law. That's a ethical concern. Whether they stole things from public facing uh, repositories of knowledge, whether that was curated or not, like Reddit or other forum based websites where communities of people that don't have a PhD pretend that they know more than they do, or give legal advice or give financial advice when they don't have the required credentials. That is all being blended together to feed these models of probabilistic text generation. um and all this infrastructure is being subsidized by people that have a very large wallet and say that you can use it for free and make it an illusion that you can build on top of sand, right? I mean, it's a multifaceted problem.
Yeah, I would dare to say it was subsidized by the state, because all of these guys get either state contracts, or they get tax credit. And it's not free, or it seems that it's free, but basically they're using your data. And another thing that is important and nobody's talking about, or it's not mainstream yet, but they're using you to teach their models how to think. Because every time that you prompt something, okay, you didn't so I don't like the result, please change that, their model is improving. So basically, we are using we are beta testers of LLMs, and we help them improve their uh, queries, their result, their indexing. And I believe that is important to understand. What we are now seeing is um, beta models being before they are tested, before there is an actual release or should be actual release, they're already using unoptimized algorithms to calculate how much resources will be needed in the future. And all these calculations of data centers, power consumption, everything is based on what I would call a beta. And here's a huge problem, because I know from my experience, we could optimize our AI programs up to 10,000 times. 10,000 times. Either we increased speed or we were able to lower power consumption. And why would we use unoptimized um, product? And we did that in a past. Disclaimer, I'm guilty. Uh, because we had investor who wanted to see if things work. And I said, okay, the thing, so the model works.
It's a
And
proof of concept. It's a proof of
yeah,
concept. You want to prove the model works.
yeah. And okay, he said, okay, now instead of giving us another 2 years to develop, now bring this product to the market in 3 months. Like this is now, um, let's say, Silicon Valley way of instead of 2 years of testing and
Ship it now, ship it now.
yeah.
We deal with the risk and consequences as we go along, and we make the money. And that's gonna be we're gonna have a budget for paying legal fees. We're
And we're
gonna
gonna upgrade, and we're gonna try to solve everything. Disclaimer and stuff like that. Just go to the market, go to the market, and that is the whole economy right now. Is just power, power, power.
we have
Don't.
a we have a comment from Renee. For whatever reason, it's not showing up the person, but the API is the context harvesting. I mean, we are we don't acknowledge it and we don't really take it into consideration, but we are, like you said, the data inputs and the weight calibrators, right? Like it's a mechanical Turk. Every user is just serving to refine and create a bigger model.
I agree with I agree with the comment. Um, However, the biggest challenge is that again, uh, the I'm extremely old-fashioned, because in the 80s, I had to be one of the best student to get access to code that I could work with, and the let's say less successful that did not come on top or in the competitions, it could not use the same code, as it was something for experts. And right now, there's this Italian author that said uh, everyone on the social media can comment on everything as and it has the same vote as a Nobel
Expert.
Prize
Yeah,
laureate.
yeah, yeah.
And this is also going on now in LLMs. Um, they just go with the scale, and they believe that if there is enough people doing that, that the probability is gonna take care of that. But it's not like that. 100, let's say, average people will not come up with above average idea or solution. uh, One scientist will come with above average solution, and the numbers, if you increase the number of average users, you don't get anything above average, you just get more of the average. And
Right.
that,
You're going into an area that makes me a little nervous because it doesn't only concern itself with the crowdsourcing of ideas, but also the way that people believe society should be ran. You
yes.
know?
And for example, this is true. And for example, in if we have LLMs, they LLMs do that in legal. That is my experience in legal. And if, because they are checking opinions on Reddit, and the people say let's kill him, And if your legislation is that you don't have a capital punishment, then the priority of your legislation should be higher than opinion of 100 people.
Right.
And that is the problem right now, because they don't. So this
There's no
ponder.
grounding. There's no grounding. There's no deterministic rules. There's no
Yes.
safety guardrails that say this is what is said, but here's the book in the book of law or the book of finance or the book of health that says this is the physics of how this system functions, and it's incongruent.
Yeah, and this is also a problem, and now OpenAI is working on that actively. Why you shouldn't use Chat GPT for your therapists? Because
There
instead of
weren't
therapist, you're gonna get opinionist.
someone described it as LLMs as a sycophant bullshit artist, someone who's up your, you know, up your, uh, someone who is attempting to be overtly charming and give you favor, curry your likeness by saying things that you want to hear, and it gives you a positive feedback signal, whether you have a positive reality that is grounded in how things really work, or whether you have a mental imbalance where your distorted view of the world, you're just feeding that back to the person.
Yeah, it's confirmation bias on steroids.
Social media plus plus, right? Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, on steroids, confirmation bias. So the LLMs try to be charming and charm you in, and most of the times, especially when you are talking with therapist or coach, you need an accountability partner, and that is something completely different.
There's no ethics here. It's just probability.
Yeah, and because people tend to, or most people tend to uh, or prioritize being loved to being authentic,
Right.
then LLM's bias is being loved.
This is not just the fit for use problem that we've harvested information from inappropriate sources, um, but it's also misapplication, misuse of technologies that are supposed to be helpful in these ways. Like, what is the weather going to be like? What is my horoscope today? Does this email sound good or bad? These aren't a responsible use of technologies, and every transaction is
Yeah,
hitting
I would,
guinea.
I would also like to hint at another thing. Uh, if we would be skilled in prompting, or if we improve our prompting skills, uh, the we will need much less itinerations or answers that will become good, and then as a consequence we will use much less processing power. And if we're able to limit data set in our prompting, much less energy will be used, because it will not be a general data set of all the internet, but it will work on the relevant data. Because, for example, for weather, we don't need the whole world's weather right now. We just need the local weather and maybe the city 50 miles away or something like that, so that we can predict if the wind is going north or south or whatever. So we don't need the whole world's weather. We just need in our data set to be maybe neighboring cities and what is going on there and where the wind is blowing. And that's enough for, let's say, accurate prediction.
And that's a good example of the weather, because it's something that you have years and years and years of historical data, and you have the sensors that are actively keeping track of the direction of wind, of humidity, of the sun, of the
Mhm.
temperature. um, and when you have one answer that can be applied to a massive amount of territory, you could cache that answer. So the transaction of information being transferred to an individual via their phone or via weather.com or whatever other kind of source of knowledge is far cheaper than everybody computing, as you said, everything to do with weather all at once every day for each person that wants to know what the weather is. It's I don't even know what would be the right mathematical expression of waste.
No, I would tell I would. You said, for example, if we go for a weather.com webpage, and I'm fan of this web, uh, they have prepared data for us. So we don't need to search and calculate. We can just get the prepared data. So we don't need a lot of AI. AI would need to understand when they should just check for available data and when they should go and search for it or calculate it and stuff like that. And that would also save like 99% of the energy, because 99% of the stuff that we are checking now on LLMs is basically what we could ask Google. And it would be much more efficient if LLMs would understand when do we when the data from weather channel is good enough, and when are we making a complex data model for, I don't know, a rocket. And this is the difference. We don't want for launching a rocket, there are completely different data inputs that we need for weather on that day and where the sun is and magnetic field and all this stuff. But for going outside, do we need the umbrella or not? The
Those are
weather.
observable. That's observable phenomenon.
Yep.
Renee commented, "Context is the first roadblock. Weather is a local phenomenon. Predictability is quantum. With the right context of awareness, you start bottom up, not top down." And that's the way we should be reasoning with our local realities, right? Like we
Mhm.
can stick our hand out the window. We could look outside of the window. Is it wet or is it dry? Is it cold or is it hot? Is if there's a way to disseminate that information efficiently, that's like you said, the optimal path. You brought up a good point before, where you described not proudly that you shipped out a product before with suboptimal algorithms, operations, the consuming
Hardware,
huh?
even hardware.
Even hardware. But
Yeah.
you just wanted to do something that would prove a concept so you can gather learnings and build a better production ready system in the future. Um, Sorry, go ahead.
If I may, there's always, because the scientist in me, I would improve my model indefinitely. But the financial guy, so the CFO in me, would ship immediately, because I want to have it in my balance sheet. I want to sell the company. I want so there's this huge discrepancy. Who's more important? Is the scientist more important, or is the business more important? What is the priority? And right now we see in this AI space, business, 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 immediate profit. Let's predict super big growth so that our share price goes up, and that is when we are successful, because our KPI are not sustainable. And there's often a time that developers, that was in my case, I would need 2 to 3 years more to develop much better product, but I didn't have time for that because the investors would push me. And I believe AI is the same here, and especially with all this talent hunting and giving 120 million to an AI expert and stuff like that. For me, okay, there are these guys that are extreme genius, that's for sure. But uh, let's say if we're talking about the top 10% guys in AI, probably most of these top 10% guys could be as good as the guys today in 2 years if you give them the right field to develop. So paying 300,000 per AI expert, I'm all for that. Paying a million, I'm if they don't have existing, so if you're paying for solution, yes. If you're paying for a person that will develop something, no. So that is um,
Well, I think you said it in the internal dialogue that you have, where you have the scientist on one shoulder and you
yeah.
have the financier on the other shoulder, where it doesn't matter what the it doesn't matter what the truth is. What matters is on the balance sheet. I mean, it's very clear to say AI will solve all of the world's problems. I hate to be a problem in today's world. And then, you're promising that people are seeing the combined theatrics of the salary of these scientists is over 1 million. They must be important. And then you see, if we want to do AI and we want to solve big problems, cancer, world hunger, loneliness epidemic, infrastructure, inequality of health, or whatever, um, you have to buy into, well, we have to help them get the infrastructure. And then you have to say, well, we have to help them get the electricity. Well, we have to subsidize this. This is for the good of society. And then it's like one loop, and they want to make money. So of course they're going to corroborate. They're going to fabricate this reality where that's true. But you and I know that it's not true. You don't need a fancy turbocharged GPU to do what would normally be valuable for an individual at their home. Maybe you could use their existing software, their existing hardware. So
And there's another thing. For example, if you uh, if you put a seed in the ground, uh, 1 gallon of water will improve things. But if you pour 10 gallons of water on it, it will not improve things anymore. And it's same with money. Throwing money at problems in the beginning, it helps solve problems significantly, especially if you have underpaid people and then you have normally paid people. Usually their productivity increases a lot, and if they work with old equipment and then you give them new equipment, this improves. And if you have nice facility, this improves. And if you have all these kindergartens taken care of and food taken care of and stuff like that, you can improve a lot of things, a lot with let's say going to an average paycheck and stuff like that. But from there on, they're just gonna buy more expensive watch. They're just gonna buy more expensive car. They're just gonna go
there's
to
diminishing returns on the
yeah,
value or the
yeah,
utility of
and it's on it's same with data centers. You can improve reliability with backups, with a lot of things you can improve. But beyond that, there's no way you can improve anything. And I believe that LLMs are great, especially for learning, and we should have them as an, I say, university students experience and teaching them and stuff like that. And now it's a general population. It's a great thing, but let's be realistic. Small language models that will operate on limited data sets are more useful for solving concrete or focused problems in the company or in the real world than large language models, because their data set is let's say almost irrelevant to a point. And we can do with the small language model, you can have just another server in our server. We don't have to have another nuclear power plant for that. And or maybe even smaller, like Siri and stuff like that we have on our phone, could have some small language model capabilities, mix them with search, because 90% of what we are now doing with LLMs is search
right.
anyway. So If we do that, we could significantly improve the performance while lowering energy consumption. And I would also teach people how to prompt, so that you don't have so much waste, so much processing power wasted because you forgot to limit something in your prompts.
Well, I speak with researchers, designers, engineers, entrepreneurs, and there is indications that conversational design is growing in importance
Mhm.
because now we have this new and improved interface that allows us to communicate in natural language. Perfect, but then I also agree, you know, why do you need to have the entire knowledge base or text of Reddit in order to provide a fit for use model that a college student can use? I could totally see it being ethical and economical and efficient computationally if you were to have a battery powered little computer that you can ask very basic questions: what, why, how. And if it's algorithmically efficient, it can retrieve from just the corpus of textbooks that are in the curriculum of that student's study plan, and then just provide that interface. You don't need more than that. What,
Yeah,
what, you know?
there are a lot of hardware solutions. I don't know if you're familiar with the Raspberry Pi project. The- Just an average Raspberry Pi can do small language model for cheap. You can have like USB stick with something, and you can use that. And I believe all modern phones from the last 2 or 3 years have more than enough processing power for small language model, if we limit the data set in the right way.
If something is efficient enough, it could just be subsidized energy wise by the sun or charging it as if you would charge your phone. It shouldn't be that you leave your ChatGPT window open and OpenAI uses your computer for energy processing. Or it shouldn't be that a company says that they're going to build a data center to create the necessary infrastructure to support all these innovations. But then everybody that's in the local energy grid is taxed to pay for the rising cost of electricity.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I have in companies, I see another thing that is they put AI programs to supervise things, and then they put sampling on like tenth of a second for something that you would be more than enough if you would do it every minute. And this is also a huge waste that is going on, and the excess data does not show anything. And this is something that right now we're going in bigger is better, and we're just building data centers that are enormous without adding the value. And it's a lot of our AI models are complete miss in a logical sense, and there is no one, because it's such a hype, AI, and we have to do it, and more is better, and there's no accountability partner that would tell the company, okay, this makes sense and this does not make sense. And yes, we have to compete, we have to test, but let's test AI. Let's do not implement it until we are sure of the added value.
Peter, I mean, I look at the life science pharmaceutical drug development pipeline. $1 billion in 10 to 15 years to develop one drug.
Mhm.
We should have the same level, well, not entirely the same level, but we should have some similar level of scrutiny for what claims can be made. A pharma commercial can't tell you this is going to turn you into Superman, like you can't go above and beyond what has been tested in clinical trials. Now, I'm not trying to limit innovation, but we should have some level of filtering for bullshit.
Let's talk. Let's talk. I really like how you put it. I'm not trying to limit innovation. Of course not. If you are doing LLM on your Raspberry Pi at home, do whatever you want, no problem. But do not use one nuclear power plant of electricity to do some calculation that is that you think that it might be useful for someone. Do first small things, optimize them on the small things, and then go scale up. And right now, everyone is going full scale because, okay, I can use all the data from Reddit and Google and everything in my LLM. Let's try how this model works with everything. And then we have huge waste. And then everyone talks about, yeah, it's expensive. They want, I don't know, $1,000 per month for that and stuff like that. Yeah, but you used like $100,000 for electricity for $1,000 of your calculations. So everything is subsidized. And who subsidized that? Everyone that does not use this to the full potential. And we will all have to pay because the impact on the environment is going to be huge.
They don't care about that. They care about the finance sheet. I was talking to my mother-in-law, and energy consumption has remained relatively static, but there's like a 40% increase in costs from one year to the other.
We have huge problem, but that is mostly because everyone is certain that energy demand will go up, and there's this scarcity induced in our minds that there's going to be a problem with energy and processing power and all of this. Yes, if we continue the same route with unverified data sets, without optimization of our algorithms, yes, things will go south really fast. But if we improve our algorithms, if we improve our data sets, if we improve our knowledge, how to use it, how to reduce waste, maybe we will need less energy. Because if AI can optimize energy usage, maybe we can do the same with less. Because this is the optimization is all about doing the same thing with less resources.
You shook this out earlier in the conversation before we started recording, but why do we have to look and read the entire dictionary to come up with one or two words that we're looking for? That's what we're doing with every computation, every prompt. It's scanning the whole corpus before giving you your horoscope as a Sagittarius, and you like to take long walks, and you're gonna be very lucky.
Yeah, and it's same. Imagine that instead of giving you just a menu of your favorite restaurant, you have to check all the chemistry and all the physics behind providing food and meals. And that is what we're doing now. Instead of saying I want a cheeseburger and fries, we just go into checking. Okay, the potato was brought to US in this year, and then we have manipulated that with genes, and then this goes to this factory and stuff like that. But it's irrelevant. Nobody cares, and that is what LLM has to go through to appear knowledgeable and to answer us, because we did not limit the data set.
So, Peter, I like to talk about these things to make people aware, and also to learn from people that obviously, like everybody that comes on these things is an expert in their respective area, and I try to like learn as much as I can. How can we take this conversation into a constructive way? What is the resolution here? I mean, I think we hinted at it, but I'd like to hear what your, resolution would be.
I would suggest that we start with ourselves. Try to improve our way of working or interacting with LLMs. Because I believe every individual, if we are optimized, we also influence everyone around us. So if we learn how to limit data input for our existing LLMs that we're using, for example, ChatGPT, Claude, and others, if we learn how to limit the data set, if we learn how to prepare prompts in a way that LLMs do not have to wander all around, as I mentioned. When they should just go for the menu. They shouldn't go where the potato is from and how it's made. If we learned that, if we become more human in a way that we understand that development takes time and that we don't want to extrapolate or have prototypes working for us and that we need a bit more patience, then we will be able to supersede this AI winter that is coming and have or reap the best benefits of AI. And I do encourage everyone to learn as much about AI as possible, to try and think where they can optimize or outsource even to AI. But don't do it without prototypes. Don't be certain before you start implementation. Don't forget there are a lot of standards that are already available. Risk management is known for
ISO
centuries.
ISO standards, right, that have been adapted
Yeah.
to AI systems and all these things, auditing for trustworthiness and consistency, reliability.
And also make sure that your data is your data, that you don't share, because this is also a huge problem. A lot of companies are using their edge because they're sharing their data with LLMs without any restraints. And don't be afraid to use small language models on your own servers and put data inside. Maybe they can be better. And something is also important. Don't believe that other people can train your LLM. You have to train it. It's same with if you want to employ a person, you have to show them. It's not that you can get someone who already knows everything. That might be possible in McDonald's or a franchise. So if he was working in McDonald's previously, you brought them to your McDonald's. It's same everything is the same and it should be fast. But LLMs are not like that. Even if they're um, presented in that way, you have to learn them from zero. And when you teach them what you know and how you do things, do not share that because that is your intellectual property. But only then they will work in a way that you want them. They will not wander around. They will not use the wrong data set, and this will improve your efficiency. And yes, this cannot be done overnight. We, for my experiences, for an agent to be trained, it's 6 to 9 months of work. So I believe that this is the most important that you can take from this conversation.
No, I heavily agree with you. One of the things I'm looking to do, I have two events that are coming up that are
Mhm.
relatively sizable. They're taking up all my time, and I want to do a really good job with them. But once that's through, I'm gonna be buying a Raspberry Pi kit and doing small language models on them, and trying to practice how to develop a little schema, create lots of rich metadata information, and then just do very simplistic use cases of like tracking weather. I don't know, like if I go to the gym, I push a button, and then that tracks like I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what use cases to tackle, but I've used this for every other uh, skill development, proactively learning and diligence in a very narrow scope. It's been build a doghouse. That's what I like to call it for project management. How do you convert the intent of I want to create a structure for a dog? What's the budget? What's the timeline? Where are the risk factors? What materials can I source locally? What skills do I require? What sequence of tasks need to be done? Where's the blueprint? And then I try to just put that into the necessary materials that it would take to give to somebody so that they can produce it. I mean, that's the same thing if you wanted to do it for an AI. right? You
And,
still need to.
I agree 100%. And don't be afraid to burn your doghouse if it's not what you like. No, it's important because for me the most important. I make a lot of models, and 90% of my models suck. And I just don't. The biggest trap that I was caught in many times in the past, because I'm doing cancer research and other diseases we're trying to, and a lot of models they're a dead end. And the sooner you acknowledge that they are dead end, the sooner you can start working on a new model. And don't just waste more time. If you see things are not working, don't invest more time in something that is not working just before you wasted, like, because you wasted 6 to 9 months. Just cut it, learn as much as you can, and start anew.
Well,
Sometimes this is the only way that you can do it. And I encourage everyone, be courageous, um, come up with new models. If they don't, the old one do not work, do not use them, and never implement something that does not work in a prototype. That that a lot of companies are just, we have to have AI and we want to report that we are in AI, and then just go and implement prototypes that do not work, and then a lot of bad things start happening. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to be 100% sure. And if it takes 2 years instead of 6 months, just take 2 years. Nothing will happen in next 2 years. So it's not you have to start today. Yeah, you have to start today, testing, trying, learning, not implementing. And I believe this is a huge distinguish. Uh, we have to distinguish what is learning and testing and trying and implementing, because we need, so time to start learning is now, but time to implement is when this is more efficient than what you're doing already.
I think when you describe that scenario of do not be afraid of cutting your losses.
Mhm.
This is what we experience in the summer to winter, that people follow the stampede and fall off the cliff. But the cows that have been grazing and kind of like chilling and trying to figure out, where's the food without being um, elevated to a level of mania, they've had the chance to assess their environments and figure out where the next piece of food is. But the people that are kind of like following the hype, following the promise, aren't always aware of their environments, are the ones that are susceptible to burn their resources, continue to bet on the same horse and say it's going to happen, it's going to happen, it's going to happen, and they're not going to figure out where is the what is the allowable loss in this
Mhm.
experiment. They place all of their life into this thing being the reality. This is the real promise. This is the future. That's why it's the doghouse. I don't even have a dog. I don't care about I don't care about the doghouse. It's just a matter of projecting logistics and mind puzzles to figure out how can I communicate this with confidence, with grace, with accuracy, and how can I fulfill this if I really wanted to
And how can I fail?
in
And
a safe environment, where I'm not going to look
I
foolish.
always when companies go and engage me and they say we want you to help us um, implement AI. Okay, are you ready to fail? And this is number one, and they go, no, that is why we are engaging you. Yeah, but I'm not guaranteed that you will not fail. I'm guaranteed that the probability improves. I'm not guaranteed that you will not fail, because there are so many other factors than myself. How will the people react? How will other systems react? That is, there are so many variables that needs to be taken in consideration. And don't be afraid to fail. The most important, when you see you fail, start again. And that is important. Not when you see you fail, you throw more money. Never throw good money after the bad one. That is important. In AI is all about testing, testing, testing. And when something works, then start implementing it. And as I said, you have to have a development environment, and then there is a real world, and there needs to be a firewall between it.
Peter, it's always a pleasure. And I kind of got this coffee like mid conversation. So I started getting more wound up as we got warmed in the conversation. But it's always a pleasure, speaking with you and sharing ideas and learning from your deep expertise, because I know you've been thinking about these things, doing them for a very long time. And, even in the advisory role, like you're trying to prevent people from burning their resources, overcommitting, being, over just misspending their resources. You want people to succeed. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation. I really like your show. I also like how you present things, and you have many interesting guests.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Renee, for the comments. We'll see you in the next one.
Hey, thank you. Bye.